Hi, my name's Emma. I'm autistic, ADHD, and a child of God. When I was 4, I was diagnosed with autism. There was one day where we were driving in the car and my sister blurts out, "You have Asperger's." She was silenced by a stern look from my mum, who then had to explain to me that I saw the world in a different way. I had a lot of strong emotions to things and strong reactions to things. People didn't always understand that. When I was growing up, I struggled to build relationships with other kids. I really desperately wanted friendships because I loved people, and how people viewed autism back then was just like an unempathetic, unemotional robot who's just there lining up their trains and doesn't want to interact with society. I had a lot of shame about autism because of a lot of the ways that people viewed autism. I even would ask my mum, could I have surgery to take autism out of my brain so I could be normal? I really tried to hide my autistic traits because I thought that if anyone found out, that they would just be like, "Oh my gosh, she's a freak." I grew up in a loving Christian family and I always knew about God, but it was probably around my teenage years that it became more of my own faith. I struggled with the fact that if God doesn't make mistakes, then why did he make me? And there was one day that I was walking through the rose garden and I felt like God said to me, "No one walks past a bed of roses and is like, yuck, look at the thorns. They're so gross," because they're so captivated by the beauty that they don't notice the thorns. And I realized that sometimes we spend so long trying to hide our thorns and try to cover them up, we don't realize that actually we all have thorns. I remember reading Psalms 139 about, "I praise you for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made." And just realizing that God has made me with intention and he has designed me, and that's not a mistake. I really started to blossom into myself. I ended up living in a community house, and it was a house where people came together from all different cultures and people and personalities. And as I lived at that house, I realised that there was so much beauty in being my whole self. I went along to this group. It was a parent support group for families who have kids who are neurodivergent. It was so daunting for me to go along. This really meant that I had to confront that shame that I had held and I'd suppressed for so long. I actually had to face the fact that I am autistic and that that's okay. I was so scared that everyone was going to judge me. But then I started forming some connections with some young adults. It just felt like God was bringing me more and more people. They are really lonely, they don't have community. There was just such an isolation that I saw and a need that wasn't being met in the community. And so I started a group called Island of Misfits. It's a group where people can come together who have felt different, who have felt like misfits, and they can come together and meet others like them. So that is now my full-time job, running that group. I think there's a strength in surrender. It's so easy to pretend that we don't have limits and pretend that we're perfect, but there's a lot of humility that comes in realizing that we're not actually perfect and we are going to mess up. And it's okay because God's perfect, and it gives us more opportunity to depend on God. I think that if I didn't know God, I would never be satisfied or content with my identity. Like autism and ADHD can both be a strength and also be a disability. When our identity is in God first, every other aspect of who we are, our culture and our neurodivergence, can fully flourish to their full potential. And I think that when I surrender my neurodivergence to God, then some of those parts that I might have seen as weaknesses when I was younger can actually be strengths if I allow God to shape it and transform it.